All right, so you're here. We are going to do what has been requested of me. I think some people have been interested in my tool restorations that I've done and shown and shared on social media. So I'm going to do a series of videos explaining my processes, purposes, and whatnot of restoring and refurbishing hand tools. And it all begins, well, roughly 15, maybe 16 years ago. I got a job at Sears, and it was a good job. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And part of that job, I started out as a merchandise pickup and receiving. So when the truck would come in the morning, I'd be there to unload it, and then throughout the day, as customers would buy large items like televisions and tool chests and things of that sort, and pressure washers and whatnot, I was throwing that into the back of their truck for them. And then I looked around and I said, what's the best job in this place? And to me, what seemed like the best job wasn't a sales manager or selling refrigerators or being out on the floor talking to customers. To me, what seemed like the best position at that store was the RTV PMT. And the RTV PMT was the return to vendor perimeter maintenance technician. So I handled, and I eventually did get that job after, I think I'd been there for about 2 or 3 months. And I had my own domain. They gave me a ring of keys. I had to go to all the manager meetings. That was kind of boring, but I had this room all to myself. Sort of like I do now. Very similar situation. And part of that job, I'd been doing it for a couple weeks, and I noticed that there was a pile of ratchets in a box. And I think the general manager or somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, were you going to refurbish those ratchets?" I said, "What? Excuse me?" Well, that's how I learned about refurbishing and restoring tools. And so the other day I was at Habitat for Humanity, and I found this Craftsman ratchet, old school Sears, $3, a 3/8" drive ratchet, and it's so old it doesn't even have a number on it. And most Craftsman ratchets, or any Craftsman item, will have a code on there. And now that they've been taken over by Stanley Black & Decker, totally different codes. On some of them, they have, most of their hand tools are new, are ones that they had never made before, but on a few they still have the old numbering system. This one doesn't have a number, and it has this interesting V-shaped shifter on it. And so I looked it up, and based on this ratchet was made between 1959 and 1964. In other words, they only offered this ratchet, with this kind of shifter on it, for 5 years. However, I go to Habitat for Humanity quite a bit, and about a year ago I bought this. It's another 3/8" drive ratchet, the 43785, made in USA. It has the quick release and a totally different shifter on it, and I have this taped up because I lost the snap ring that goes in there. And so I have to order the kit to fully repair it, but otherwise it's fine. So I actually was in a Lowe's today, and I looked for this model number, and they had it, and it's made in China now. And when you hold it in your hand, it's so the edges are so sharp. If you used it for any length of time, you'd probably cut your hand on it. This one's pretty boxy. I'll say that it's got some angles on it, whereas this one, 1959 to 64, it's all been rounded. Very smooth, very nice feel, and I want to use this. And as you can see, it's got a little rust here and some dirt in here, but I mean, if we turn it, the teeth all sound good. So I don't know. If anything's damaged, you'll have to get the rebuild kit. And that brings me to that point. So when I was working at Sears, I had a whole box of rebuild kits, probably 1,000 of them. And there may be, 7 or 8 different kits that worked for a number of ratchets. And so all I'd have to do is look up the rebuild kit for this one, maybe get 2 to get the snap ring for this. That's went flying about a year ago, and any of the gears that may be, the teeth on the gears that may be busted, I don't think so. It sounds pretty good. It sounds dry to me. Probably just need some oil. And that's another interesting thing that we were finding when you're refurbishing ratchets at Sears at that time. This was in the early 2000s. At that time, the ratchets were still made in USA. What that meant, and it said on the box or the packaging, it said forged in USA, assembled in China. So the majority of ratchets we were getting back in the returns, the royal we, were the modern ratchets. We weren't seeing a lot of these. Every once in a while, one of these would show up, or even older ones, where the C on the Craftsman logo would go all the way across. Those are super old, like from the 40s, and even earlier maybe. But you never saw hardly any of these. You would get those forged in America, assembled in China ones, which probably look like this. This is an older one. I'd estimate this is from the 80s or 90s, if I had to guess. But what we'd find, you would open them up and they'd be totally dry. Now, part of the rebuild kit, right back here, you're going to have a spring and a ball bearing. And what you do, and there's a little well that the spring sits in. We're going to open it up and I'll show you. And the ball bearing sits on there. And you put a couple drops of like machine oil, like a sewing machine oil, or 3-in-1, a very light oil. And on some of the rebuild kits, they required you to put a little bit of grease, a dab of grease on the gears. Although that was kind of rare. You didn't have to do that much. It was mostly just a drop of oil. What was happening on these Chinese assembled ones, they weren't putting oil on the ball bearing. And the way it works is that, you put that little bit of oil in there, and then as you shift gears or turn it, it's going to release that oil and lubricate the gears. And because it's closed shut pretty tight, that should last a while. You shouldn't have to oil it. Some of the bigger, it looks like on this one it actually has a little dimple here. You could stick an oil can in there and oil it. You see that? I don't think, yeah, this one has it too. It even says oil, put oil in there, but you don't really need to. Anyway, that's how it all started. And all we would do, we'd get a ratchet, a warranted ratchet. They're a lifetime warranty. Some guy comes in, says, I broke this thing, it's a piece of junk. We'd get a tub like this and fill it with simple green and throw the ratchets in there and let them soak. And then when there was nothing to do, we would assemble them using the rebuild kits. Now this, I don't have a rebuild kit. We're going to take a look at it and see, maybe diagnose what's going on, and talk about refurbishing tools and sort of what that's all about, why I do it, and we'll show you this first step in the process of refurbishment before we move on to something a little more complex, like this pair of Crescent tongue and groove pliers that I've picked up the other day. for about $1. These were also made in the USA. They're pretty good. As I can see here, the teeth on the jaws are all still intact. There's no cracks. And so we're doing good. And that's part of the deal. I mean, you're looking for, when you're out hunting old tools, or, you know, you get a box of your grandpa's old tools or something, and you're going through them, deciding which ones you want to refurbish for future use. You know, you got to look at things like one of the items I posted on social media the other day, maybe last week or so, or this small pair of Linesman Pliers that I found. And what's neat about them, why I got them in the first place, was the blades are, you know, almost look like they've never been used. Now, I've been using this quite a bit since I polished them up. And also here on the actual knurling, it's all still intact. And so that's why I said, okay, I'll spend the $2 or whatever it was for these. Same with these. I did these aviation 10 snips. The blades were in good condition. There were some other 10 snips there, and the blades were cracked. They had chunks taken out of them. There's no reason to buy or purchase anything like that unless you're willing to go in the extra mile for your refurbishment. And to me, I don't have necessarily the tools or the patience to do any of that. But anyway, let's open up this ratchet and see what we can see here. Now, gonna have to get the old snap ring pliers out and see what we can do here to open these up. Don't know why it's being I might have the wrong bits in there. So what I will do, I put these in here thinking they would work better, but so Gear Wrench makes these snap ring pliers. They're pretty cool. They're universal. It's also a tool made in the US, which Gear Wrench isn't really doing much of these days. So now that I think they must have got bought out recently, because I'm seeing them at Home Depot. When I go to Home Depot, they've got all Gear Wrench stuff now. Not these. You're not gonna find these there, but all their ratcheting wrenches and whatnot are there. That brings me to another thing. It's like, oh, you know, should I buy made in US? Yeah, if you want. I've been sort of, I've had, due to certain unforeseen circumstances, I've had to repurchase most of the tools I had. And so I've been trying to buy from first world countries, but you can't always. But if I have a choice between China and Taiwan, I would get the Taiwan made tool or the Vietnamese made tool over the Chinese. Not because I have anything against China or Chinese people or anything like that. It's a matter of quality of craftsmanship and quality control, which I think is lacking in the Chinese factories. Whereas in Taiwan and even Vietnam, the emphasis on quality control is a little better. So let's open these up. Now that we got the right deal on here. Careful not to lose the snap ring pliers. And I can see already that it's pretty dirty in there. So we'll save all these pieces. And we'll carefully lift this out. Let's take a look. Now I'm looking at this gear here. I don't see any evidence of cracking or wear and tear. They feel pretty sharp. they still feel pretty good. And that's a good sign. It's very dry though. It's pretty, yeah, it's very, very dirty. We'll look inside here. See, there's a lot of dirt. Okay, and a lot of dirt right here. And probably what happens is it collects here and then eventually gets through that washer and ends up in there. So now, there's the fun part where we remove this clip. Ooh, this is where we have some rust. I'm trying to do this carefully, it's not working out. Out of practice. Here we go. We've got it now. Oh, not quite. Almost. Now I just reset it. If you think this is tough, we try to put it back together. Okay. There we go. Yeah, look at all that dirt. Oof, that's bad. Very dirty. Okay, now, I don't know if you could tell, if you could see, this ball bearing is right there. So what we're gonna do is all that dirt that's falling out. Look at that metal shaving. Is that something? That's just something from the desk. So you can tell it's kind of messy. Okay. So that's looking all right. It's very, very dirty. God, it looks like... So in a rebuild kit, what would come in it would be this, the gear, and the other, and probably the knob here, the shifter, ball bearing, and let's see. Oh, I got to dig this out. Handy. Let's grab this guy. Whoa, this got magnetized, which may help us. It's a Weha chip lifter, which, you know, is made in Germany. It's a very high quality tool, and I broke it the day I bought it. So I don't know. Not a big Weha fan. I'm more of a Wera. If you get German tools, hand tools, Wera I think is the way to go. Weha is kind of chintzy, in my opinion. Okay. So let's pop this spring out if it wants to come out, which it may not want to. May need some coaxing. Come on out, spring. Yeah, there's a lot of dirt in there, and so it might be trapping the spring in here. I need something needle-like. Let's try this. That might be too thick. Wait, there we go. Yeah, look how filthy that thing is. Now I've got a box of springs. I might replace this, but there's not rust on it. It's just very dirty. You can see the oil and the dirt kind of created a muck there. But yeah, when I get those Chinese ones, or those assembled in China ones, they weren't putting the oil down in here, and that's where you're gonna put it. You drop your spring in, you put a couple drops of oil, set the ball bearing in, set this guy in, and go about your business. So what do we do first? Well, I'd say let's just get a paper towel, honestly. Just wipe it. Any kind of surface dirt or grime, try to get as much of it off as you can before you chemically treat. So the first treatment you do with these tools, now probably because this is in pretty good shape, I'm only going to do the simple green treatment. And there's two different things you can do. You can do simple green, which is this stuff here. It's a degreaser and cleaner, or you can use odorless mineral spirits. Now, odorless mineral spirits, are going to work the best. But if you know what an SDS is, or safety data sheet, and you were to look at that safety data sheet on odorless mineral spirits, doesn't matter which brand, you'll find that it is highly toxic, very dangerous stuff. And if you look at the safety data sheet for Simple Green, you'll find that it is mildly, it can be mildly irritating to your skin and things like that, but it's not going to potentially kill you or make you pass out. So we'll go the Simple Green route, and that's what we used at Sears. So we'll remove this $3 sticker, and the Simple Green should take care of any residue that's on there. Because what I'm going to do is soak it overnight, and then we'll come back and check on it and hit it with probably just a wire brush and see if that does the trick. There's very little rust on this, and that might not even be rust, that might just be dirt. In fact, let's hit it with a brush right now just to make the job easier. Now on, yeah, look, it's gone immediately. There's very little force here. That may have not been rust at all. Might have just been some dirt. But yeah, what you'll find is in these chemical treatments, you can just throw the stuff in there dirty, but it doesn't help with the efficacy of the chemical treatment, because at least in my eyes, or in, you want to be able to dispose of the stuff properly. You know, you don't want a buildup of toxic waste, in other words. And what can happen with Simple Green, the dirt and muck and grease to degreaser ratio goes up higher the dirtier the tool is. The same thing with this product here that we're going to use, probably not going to use on this tool, but Evapo Rust. This stuff costs about 20 bucks a bottle, and that's on the cheap end, and for a gallon. And you can just throw the tool in there, dirt and paint and everything, but it's gonna, this stuff doesn't smell like anything, or it kind of has a green hue to it. I'm gonna give it a sniff here. It doesn't smell like anything, but when it gets any kind of dirt or a lot of rust, or it starts to wear out its usefulness, it gets a real bad funk to it. And I believe it says it's super safe and non-toxic, blah, blah, biodegradable, etc., safe on skin and eyes and reusable. Well, out of the bottle it's non-toxic, biodegradable, and safe on skin and eyes, but the second you do that chemical reaction where it starts removing rust and dirt and grime and everything else, I don't think it is any longer non-toxic or biodegradable or safe on skin and eyes. I used to just throw the dirty tool. I didn't even do any kind of cleaning. I would just throw them into the Evapo Rust, and the stuff turns black, and it gets this stench. It smells like something died. It's very disgusting smelling stuff when you do that. So I try to put, if I'm using the Evapo Rust treatment, I try to put tools in as clean as possible before they even get in there. So for instance, when we're gonna, later on in another video, when we do these guys, or I've got some even bigger and rustier stuff back here that we'll get to, I'll have this pretty well cleaned. It'll still have rust on it, I imagine, but no dirt or grease or oil, and that way all the Evapo Rust we'll be doing is taking off the rust and any other residual stuff, and that way I can reuse the Evapo Rust again and again, you know, for 10 or more tools rather than a couple, because I made it turn black and disgusting, and it doesn't even work anymore. So let's clean any of this grease off of here. Yeah, there's no rust or anything on this stuff. There's really nothing to worry about here, but it's caked on there pretty good, this grime. And that oil will do that. And it could be that the owner of this put in some WD-40 or something stupid like that. You know, never lubricate with WD-40. If you have to, use an aerosol oil lubricant like that, Tri-Flow or Ballistol or one of those is good, but WD or PB Blaster or that kind of stuff's not really for that. That's sort of like, if that stuff works, but it only works when you do it. It doesn't, if you let it sit, it, remember WD stands for water displacement, not, it only displaces the water, it doesn't remove it. And then it just attracts every kind of nasty thing that will stick to it, which is just about anything. So just get this kind of cleaned up here. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just get enough of that surface grime off that you're not gonna ruin your chemicals too much. Yeah, that orange, I don't know what that was. Certainly not rust. I don't even think, is this even metal? Let's grab a magnet here. This must be like, this must be aluminum or is it plastic? I'm curious. I gotta see something here. Is this made of plastic? It must be aluminum. Yeah. Yeah, that's aluminum. Okay. I was like, what's going on here? It kind of feels like, yeah, that's some kind of metal. Okay. Anyway, so when you have an aluminum part, all the sanding, if you're going to do any kind of polishing or whatnot, you're going to have to go about it a different way. You're going to have to go with a real light grit right away. So let's talk about polishing and all that. When you get the hand tool, whether it's something like this or something like this, you have to decide what you want to do with it. Are you going to use it? Are you going to put it on display? Some antique tool collectors would tell you not to do anything to them. Just like coin collectors, don't clean your coins, don't do, you know. They want all that dirt and grime on there. They want all that, the years on it, that patina. If that's what you want to do, if you want to maybe you want to resell the stuff, and so you want a mirrored finish on everything. Maybe you're going to etch, you know, cool designs like tribal designs or something into the tool. You see this has been dropped a number of times. There's some pits and some scuffs and all that. Maybe you want that all sanded down to where it's a total mirror finish. It's really up to you what you want to do. Why I do most of these is because I'm going to use them. I do a variety of different types of work every day, and I like to have different kit bags that maybe, and also outside of work, I might need to do some plumbing work for the church or for an organization I belong to. Maybe I'll just throw something like this in there rather than my Knipex or whatever. So, you know, a tool that will do the job, but it's not, you know, for my livelihood. In other words, yeah, I'm not going to risk losing or breaking a tool I need to use at my job every day. So, yeah, these snap rings are pretty gross. So, I had a bunch of mineral spirits in this, and that kind of deformed the plastic a little bit, but that's no big deal. We're going to just dump some simple green, and it tells you to use 1:1 for the strong mixture. I'm just going to dump it in, just pure. This is a pure simple green. I'll fill it up to about there. That's probably good. And this is just the concentrated stuff. I'm not, you know, let's make sure that that covers it pretty good. We'll stick that in there, and we'll stick all the parts in there. And you may want to get like a sieve or something like that to keep these parts in, especially like that ball bearing or whatever. What I do is I just use a magnet to pick everything up once I have let it soaked for a day or two. And really the simple green's not going to hurt it. I would give it a couple agitations on the first go around, kind of loosen any of that dirt and grease. But you can already see little flecks of stuff separating here. And you know, that's just a patience game. You can, you know, hit everything with a wire wheel and get all crazy to clean it out. I kind of like to let the chemicals do the work, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'll put a lid on it and just let it sit on the bench. I'll set it to the side for a minute here, just while I talk to you. And yeah, that's the first step here of any of these things. I'm doing this ratchet first because that's how I started, and I'm just giving you kind of a history with that. But yeah, you just let the cleaner do its work. Sit overnight, let it do its thing. Whether you're doing this ratchet that was in pretty good shape, maybe just a little dirt and grime on it, that'll clean it off. If you're going to be restoring this, or let's get really wild, I'll show you a couple other things I have in store. When we get to another video, or we get to this pipe wrench and this and this pipe threader that I picked up, we get to something like this, and it may be a little more advanced. That'll be another video, but that's something to look forward to. I think I'll probably do these wrenches here first, and then we'll worry about this pipe threader. I have a ratcheting pipe threader that I actually use that looks like this. I didn't even bother cleaning it. I just did the dies, but the actual ratchet itself is just doing its thing. Has its nice patina on it, as they say. But yeah, this old Stillson, made by the Erie Tool Works. Well, yeah, while we're at it, while we got it on the bench here, here's something to look out for. Now, I bought this because it was 75% off. I had been looking at it, and I didn't get it because I said, well, there's some things I don't like about it. And I'll show them to you right now. I'm going to take this apart. Okay, we're going to look at this jaw here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's bent. Somebody was wrenching on something real hard. So when you look at the teeth here, you see that? Yeah, something, and there's some, yeah, this got kind of smoothed down a bit down here. I think up there is normal. I'm being weird. But this got bent back. Maybe he wanted it like that. Whoever had this before, maybe they heated it and bent it. But it looks more like they needed something with a little more power, a little more torque, a little more leverage, and they used this 14-inch when probably, you know, they should have brought out the big boy, the 36er. Which this is one, you can see I've half restored it. Only the jaws have been, all this is here on the jaws of this Walworth Stillson wrench, which Walworth held the original patent for Stillson wrenches. So this is probably from the 1890s or something. It was not $35. I think I got a 50% off. The way Habitat for Humanity works is, this I bought a few years ago anyway, but you just wait. You just play the waiting game. If it's something you have to have right away, you pay full price, but if it sits there a week, it goes to 25% off. Sits there 2 weeks, it goes to 50. After 3, 75. So if you shop at Habitat for Humanity, go regularly, play the waiting game. It's a gamble because sometimes, like, I let an anvil sit there for a week, and once that week was up, I went to go get it, at least 25% off, because it was 70 or 80 bucks, and it was gone. I mean, it was gone. I went there first thing in the morning when they changed the color codes, and it was totally gone. So somebody else had been watching it too. It's a gamble, you know. You gotta be careful. So all I had done here is the simple green and the maybe not even the simple green. I might have just stuck this in Evapo Rust and hit it on the wire wheel because after you take it out of the Evapo Rust treatment, it'll get kind of a film on it, and you just brush it off with a brush, or you just put it on the grinder wheel, you know, with the wire wheel. It's fine. But I didn't do the rest of the body, so it has the rest of the body has the patina, the jaw, and this has the you know, original bare metal look. But anyway, somebody should have used that instead of this guy, and that's why this is bent up. So this is something I wouldn't normally get, but because I got it for 75% off, and I want to restore some tools, I'll probably use it for something, because I'll be using it on something infinitesimal, small plumbing jobs and that kind of thing. I won't be trying to pipe fit with it. It should be okay, or steam fit, or whatever they were using it for. But the Erie Tool Company is pretty cool. I actually have a pipe vise made by them that I restored, and which I may show in another video. But yeah, we'll get to something like this. It has some paint on it. It has some green paint and black paint, and you'll see how the Evapo Rust will take this paint off, and the way it takes the paint off is kind of incredible, because you'll take it out of the Evapo Rust and the paint will still be sitting on there, and then you'll wipe it and it's gone. You know, it's incredible to me, the amount of time I've spent scraping paint off of things, and there's this chemical that's supposedly non-toxic and etc. that just takes it off pretty quick. I'm discovering something here with this pin. That's not good. I think this pin will be easy to knock out. Let's do something funny while we're here, while we're talking about it. I have a set that should rip these out. I'm curious here. Let's see what happens when I do this. No, never mind. I have a hammerless pin, hinge pin remover. I should probably use that, but I think that's okay. I think that hinge pin is stuck in there, so let's hope. Anyway, this thing's got problems, but we'll mess with it later. I'm excited to do that, and we'll just let this thing sit overnight, and we'll be back at it.